Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Axel jam si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mu fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
Well, it's approaching 10 o'clock. We appreciate the time, given to us this morning. If you were to do a SWOT analysis of the Gambia today, what would you say are its strengths, its weaknesses, its opportunities, its threats?
Well, I'm not a student of SWOT analysis. I do system analysis.
Okay. What's your system analysis of Gambia today?
Yes, we have seen the farmers cannot even produce the rice that we need to be fed. The Gambia is importing up to 51 billion worth of goods.
51 billion?
51 billion worth of goods. Wow. And simply exporting about 800 million plus from what we produce internally, and about 4 billion from the export trade. Added together, you get about 5 billion. And we have a deficit in 2023 of 46 billion. It was 11 billion in 2016, now it's 46 billion. We are importing more, of course, but exporting almost the same. So Gambia is not growing, regardless of the figures that one gets from records. If you just look at the imports, you'll see that growth that requires production, not just services, production, because that's the foundation of life. We cannot produce our rice. We cannot produce enough vegetables, etc. And instead, our production system are also not what will lead our people from poverty. Because if you take one person, yes, it's grand. I continue to emphasize that a nation must have a private sector that is productive and a public sector that is productive and an informal sector that is productive. In China today, you will see that what they have done is the state is this, they build the stadium, they build the Supreme Court building. This is a state construction company, just like a PWD in the past. But they also have private companies that they have financed, because they know that certain countries believe in such a private sector system. They will finance them to go into those countries. But all the money they are gaining will go back to China. So China has developed this sophisticated way of the state and the private sector to work together in order to help build China. But African countries are sleeping. You will see the state will say, well, will not be productive. The private sector, you're just taxing them without any form of collaboration for any form of development, even if they have the capacity. Sometimes you even misdirect them into investment that will not, in fact, help the company to be able to develop its resources, to be able to compete. It will be doing what others will be able to do more efficiently. That is not helping us. What we need to conclude that sector is, don't allow the women to go to this garden and work for others. When you can give them seed fertilizer farming implements so that they own the farm and produce the vegetables, produce the potatoes and all that they need to produce, so that the money will go to them and they go and build good houses, therefore construction will develop. They take care of their children in school, you know, the uniforms and all, buy clothes for them so the tailors will have something to sew. That's how you build an economy, not to impoverish them. That system is what the Pan-Africanists from 1919 said should not happen. Don't allow your people to be exploited. Make sure that you provide all the land they need, provide them with fertility so that they produce what you need. Then we'll be self-sufficient in food production. That's not happening. You'll go to a banana plantation. A village will sign a contract with somebody. The person will employ the villagers, use their water, use their land, sell the banana, and make millions. What stopped a government from giving them seed fertilizer farming implements to be able to produce the banana, sell it, and the money goes to the village? So this is what we are saying, and you can call me later to go into more system. Look at the urban area. Where is the employment? Every GTTI student who has done some technical knowledge, you could have said, well, we have to transform our coos into flour. So here is a machine that will produce the flour, etc., 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 etc. So you have a second layer of production, processing by them. This is what happened in India and all these countries. India is not my example. I'm just saying in terms of the cottage industry. Yes. But there is massive poverty there because the system is still there. But this is what happened in all these countries. You have cottage industries that processes, and therefore you have the goods, and others will go into selling them. You have all these small businesses just waiting for support. Because if the farmers are buying, having enough, they build houses, they buy clothes. What about the tailors, etc.? So it means that we will feed each other so that it becomes a chain where those who are tailors, those who want to sell clothes, those who want to prepare hairs, etc., there will be people with money to be able to come to you so that every side of our services will also function. But Peter, if you were to ask the government today, they will say, well, we cannot do that. They have not done that. Over 5 billion. NEMA, FASDEV, all this were here. During Jam, we could not produce more than 57,000 tons out of 200,000 tons of rice. Importing 2 billion, etc. So this is what we are saying. The system is not sustainable. It only sustains poverty. And look at the ports. $20 million. A country cannot earn that to be able to develop your ports facilities. You're talking about 1 billion, you talk about deep seaport. In current world circumstances, where you remember, I was reminding, well, you remember that drug case, 1 billion cocaine case. So money is abundant in the world. And what African countries should do is to protect themselves. ECOWAS to come up with an investment bank where if Gambia wants to build a deep, ECOWAS will come in.
Don't they have that? There's what is called the EDIP, ECOWAS.
That's what I'm just saying an investment bank, and that is what is needed in Africa. They get all these arrangements, but the structures that should sustain them, the World Bank came into being, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, during that period of post-Second World War. And it was governments contributing, America first, and then they gave loans to countries to rehabilitate their energy, their construction companies, and all sorts of companies. So Africa, you need sovereign wealth fund that is African, contributed by African governments. This is what you need in ECOWAS regional governments to support each other, to engage in this type of projects so that we continue to control our sovereign wealth. But for 30 years, you give it to some outsider to control. 25 years to control your bridge. You know, if they control, how will you reduce any form of tariff, any form of dues? what about if your people cannot pay that? What do you do? Is it that they will not travel anymore? So these are what you call sovereign assets. Once you start giving them up, you are giving away your sovereignty. Somebody else will control. Some drug lords can, you will say that this place, this beach, your citizens will not come there anymore. This is now a private thing, your people cannot come anymore. How do you control that? How will your security forces know what is what without confrontation and without conflict? So I'm saying the direction is not there. That's not what those who met in 1919 to build up that template for African liberation, that's not what they were envisaging. That system is not happening, and that is the system that I and others must continue to work, especially DOI, to bring into the country.
It's 2 minutes past 10 o'clock. I promised to release you at 10 o'clock. Can you take one or two at most more questions?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I can take as many questions.
Okay, very good. Well then, send in as many questions, listener, as you can. Hi, Uncle Peter. I think DOI should change their political operandi from a moderate to a loud and vibrant way to further penetrate the public. I am a DOI supporter, but I really believe the muted activities is taking the DOI agenda out of public politics discussion.
Well, he is reflecting, which is very good. I think, Peter, you can see how open DOI is. And maybe we should do more of this to discuss with the public. You see, DOI had to go through transition. You can remember DOI was NAT. I stood as a NAT National Assembly member. People should reflect what DOI was doing to achieve that change for the first time in Gambian politics, which happened in 2016. For the first time, Gambia changed to the ballot box. No opposition party had ever changed the Gambia. So when you say change your politics, to what? Because no opposition party, despite their politics, had ever changed the Gambia to the ballot box. It is only DOI's strategy and tactics that led us to 2016 and brought the change. So give DOI that credit, that we know how to employ the right tactics to be able to achieve certain goals. But the goal of DOI coming to office, that is what we are setting for ourselves. But you must build a foundation. For Halifa Saleh to say all these things, and you do not have in each village a DOI member who understands DOI's manifesto and is able to explain it to every villager, it will be foolhardy to believe that DOI will take over the country. So DOI needs DOI members. And he said he is a DOI, so well, become a member. I don't know which village you are from, but be ready to form a committee in that village and come and register. Get your membership card. Go to your village and start working. Get a manifesto. You'll have enough information. We are building a very strong network, ICT network, to be able to ensure that what is in the manifesto will be everywhere. You see, what people wanted DOI to do is that to be, excuse my word, I'll be funny here, I should not be saying this, and elders should not be saying this, is this puntum pantam parties where everybody comes and you do everything you like, everybody just goes, get people involved, hold rallies every minute and build an ambience so everybody will come. Then everybody will go, because this is what is happening to all these parties. Everybody will come, and at a given stage, everybody will go again, because no message is given that is keeping people together. And that is why it is difficult. We've decided not to engage in that ambience until we have the members who understand how to build a country, to know the manifesto, all these things that I'm saying. We are saying it in our local languages. If you are convinced, go and tell the farmer why the farmer is poor. Why is it that under PPP, under Jammeh, under this government, a government does not come to the farmer and say, the world market price is this. We are going to sell the groundnuts here. It takes this, to get it there. This is what is due to you. And sign with a farmers union the contract, just like you have the workers union, farmers union, that, okay, this year we've all worked together, this is what the farmers should have. Has that ever happened? No. We are saying that's what should happen. That's when government is for the farmer. So in that regard, what he's saying, he's right, in the sense that we've not built the ambience yet, but we are capable of building it. What we want now are the members who understand the message, so that each member is a messenger. You don't have to wait for Halifa Saleh to talk. You can talk. But if you don't talk and you don't have a clear message, they will confront you. You can see certain leaders, when they talk, even the state will respond, because they feel that you have said something that they feel is not correct. So when you go and talk, you have a right to talk, others have a right to talk. So if everybody talks for Doi and say everything that they want to say, things, insult here, say there, well, at the end of the day, there is no Doi. Because what is Doi? It's its message. It's what it stands for. That is our difference. And members should recognize that and become Doi. Let them, anybody who tells you it is only Halifa Saleh who can talk, it's not true. Many people are talking in the name of Doi, but
yeah, but we don't get to hear those many.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Because, why? Because when this voice talks, it is listened to for a reason. We want those many also to know that there must be those type of people who would talk and people will listen. So know that that's where the problem is. The problem is not one person is talking, because there is no law saying others should not talk. But what is important is, be the type of person who understands your message and who has the sincerity and the commitment to deliver it in such a way that in every village, when you talk, it's the Doi people talking. That is already a trend, because our people are respected in many places. It's just that we need to increase their numbers. And the numbers can be increased in a month, because if one person educates 10 people in a month, 10 people are already educated.
Why did it take so long to realize that you needed the strategy of increasing, the number of strong, solid representation at grassroots level? Because Doi will be 40 years next year.
Peter, thank you for saying that. Peter, I have told you again, and maybe this is the last time that I will say this. Doi was 80 years old, coup d'etat, 1994. They banned all the parties. Up till today, some people are saying Doi was not banned. Even though in 1996, they saw Doi going to be registered by the IEC. A party that was not banned, how could it get registered? Go for registration.
Why do you think the confusion? Was it because Foraya kept coming out?
There was no confusion. There are people who are misleading the public. In fact, a certain political leader even mentioned that, and I don't want to go back into that, mentioned that the Doi was not banned. And this is what they were telling their people, because they were inactive. They could not operate. If you go to the first day when these people took over, you ask all the leaders who were political parties, they all hibernated. We took the bull by the horn and told the soldiers, yes, you have removed Jawara, but you have not crucified the sovereignty of our people. And we will not allow you to crucify the sovereignty of our people. Engage in consultation, the first letter, it's in this book. Nurturing Sovereign Citizen. The whole history is here. You will see the letter that should have taken us to our graves. And eventually we were arrested, taken to court. We defended ourselves. But the coup makers came to know that we were as popular within their ranks as they were. And the more they tormented us, the more they were likely to be removed from office. So they had to compromise. And even before they compromised, you can see what happened in November. That is why you had the consultative committee established in December 1994 to see whether we'll have how many years transition to constitutional rule. Because they came to realize that if they continued, they would not be able to survive. So that is DOIS work. We helped aid the country, and DOIS was not in existence. We came back, and two forces, PPP survived, because we went back to constitutional rule. If you had a Gaddafi type of system, would PPP have survived? No. And that was the trend. No party state. We moved to elections. And PPP, NCP, GPP, even though they were banned for those elections, they survived through another party. I don't want to name the name. But it was built. So they should thank DOI that we have helped, people to survive politically. We won Serekunda in 2002, Sidia in Woodley. I later became a member of the Pan-African Parliament. Sidia became a member of the ECOWAS Parliament. We became powerhouses. We could have built DOI in the country. But then we went to America, and they said I should be a coordinator for the coalition. I looked at the situation and called home, and our people agreed that for us just to go alone to try to build the party, we will never change the Gambia, because the opposition will always be divided. We agreed. We brought the opposition together. That is thanks to DOI. We brought the opposition together. DOI died. There are certain things I have not said, but people will make me to say it. Humility does not.
Well,
let me emphasize.
That's why you are here.
You see, Nat.
Yes.
The treasurer of the UDP is Honorable Sani.
Amadou.
Yes. Ask him. When they established NAT, they made me to take a story building to be NAT headquarters. $80,000. I took it cash and gave it to him as the treasurer to go and pay it. They promised to pay me up till this day. Not a single butut has been paid to me. And I can say on and on. My office at that time, which should be the Office of a National Assembly member, well, I'm sorry, Peter. That's why, even though people felt that I served, I could have done more. But for the sake of country and people, I did less, even though people appreciated. Can you imagine 80,000 if I pumped it? I started to do a lot of projects. If I pumped it into projects in Serekunda Central at the time, and I wanted the position for eternity, you think I would have lost it? It was not possible. I will be there for eternity. But the situation is we wanted at least a change for the first time through the ballot box, so that parties will disperse, and then we'll put our program to the people and move to the next stage. So you see DOI, its resources, everything being used for coalition building. 2011, what happened?
What happened?
We decided to form the United Front. I called them together at the time, Mr. Martin, Honorable Hamad Ba. When I forced, they contacted them. Well, they contacted me, then I also contacted them and talked about coalition building. They thought I was just building a space for myself. How can you call people for coalition building and at the end of the day, you don't participate in the convention? You can see that at the convention, he even shed tears. He would not believe when they talked about the contestant that I did not contest. So he ended up being selected. Martin was there. He also felt that, well, maybe the DOI people, I will influence them to do something. But democratically, we did not participate. We didn't vote. We just left them to have their convention. Whoever won, we gave you support. The finances and all during that period, we finance. Call them and ask them. We finance whole processes of these activities. So in short, 2016, the same, we were prepared for election. I had a meeting with the presidential candidates at Kairaba. We paid the hall to get them there. The whole process. At the end of the day, they had a convention. We could have cried foul that, you know, there were some underhanded things.
Were there underhanded things?
I will be complicit because knowing something and still participate, why cry about it? For us, the issue was not about that. You know, you even met me that night before the convention, and they are there. So the issue is, for me at that time and for Doi, we wanted a change for the first time through the ballot box. And therefore, if we withdrew, then the change would not have happened. We would not be spoilers. We went all the way. Not only that, when the impasse came, we took the front line. So in short, Peter, Doi has always been in the limelight, but used. There's no problem with that. Used with our consent to achieve a goal of liberating Gambia, and Gambia is liberated. If today you have a president, any president, it came from you. Nobody can force any Gambian. Nobody can terrorize any Gambian. Nobody can intimidate any Gambian to vote in any way. That Gambia came into being with Doi at least on the side, and for some at the forefront.
All right. I'll make this my definite last question. Good morning, Peter. My question is Doi interested in an arrangement similar to the coalition in 2016? Why do you think Doi is still not the ruling party after educating the masses in the Gambia? Tribal politics or what?
Peter, the people who call me so frequently to pray for me come from all groupings. So to me, certain tactics, people must recognize tactics, certain tactics are always used by people who want to get to power. So we should not allow their tactics to distract us or detract us from that journey to create a Gambia. One people who would take charge of their destiny. It's a long journey, but we are getting there. The slogan in 2016 was One Gambia, One Nation, One People. The whole nation came together. So if we've lost that, know that it's because of tactics of parties in politics. So therefore, don't ask Doi to adopt any other tactic except what it is doing. Building the people together so that they become one force that can liberate their country. The journey has been long because we had to take these side steps to achieve a major goal in 2016. But remember, between 2006 and 2016 was just 10 years. We could have achieved what we achieved in 2016 in 2006 with NAT. It didn't happen. Now, what do we need to do is for people to understand that bringing a change of face is not sufficient. It's not enough. It's not enough. But that conversation is yet to grip the minds of people. So that's why we have to increase the intensity of conveying that information. And anybody who says that will be correct. We have to increase the intensity. But we could not do that because Doi has within its ranks many people with different versions of what politics should be. In fact, I wanted to cease to be Secretary General. I announced it.
You wanted to?
Yes, I announced it. Maybe I would have gone because I wanted to continue with the writings and building this expert bank for Doi and move that forward in preparation for the change that we aspire. But then looking at the membership, you see people who get up, go everywhere, some people were naming themselves after personalities, trying to have football teams. You see the personal strivings. And I felt that we were moving towards a very dangerous plane, that DOI was becoming any party that anybody can do anything that he wants, thinking that you are taking the party
You
forward.
seem to be describing a chaotic situation in DOI.
Well, for the past, let's call it 4 or 5 years, was a period of almost silence, not chaotic, but silence. But prior to that, you see the way people were thinking of how to move DOI forward, and they had to be left to do everything they could, so that they understand that that's not the way. It is when they knew that that's not the way, that they started to come back to what DOI is saying, that this is about a system. It's not just about a face. A system. This is not just simply idealism. This is a realism. If you don't convince the people that you can move them from poverty, then you cannot win them to bring about change. They will follow their different strivings, whether it is my tribal feeling or my religious feeling. They will follow all strivings. The only way you can bring a nation together is to protect the national interest. So in short, we had to take time to consolidate the party, and that has been done. And don't be surprised that before the end of this year, we'll seize the ground so effectively that all those who had their doubts, as we usually say, all the doubting Thomases will concede that the right thing has been done at the right time for us to leave a legacy, because we are almost getting there. We cannot live all our lives trying to build something that ultimately will bring about the change that we want, and then you just allow it to sink into a type of politics which has no future anyway, because which opposition party is taking over the country by using that type of politics? So people have their ideas. Some are philosophers on politics. They will tell you what to do. But yes, they have done it for other parties, but they have not taken the country. It is only a coalition that came through the tactics and strategy of DOI that has done so. So therefore, we still have faith that we can now come up with the tactics and strategy that will build the type of change that we really wish for the Gambia.
And definitely, in conclusion, what message might you have for Gambians?
We are facing the most challenging time of our history. We need to move to a third republic. But even those who were here in 1965 to guide us politically seems to be more resolved than we are. That is a tragedy. One expects that we will have greater insight by learning from the past, but we are not even drawing the lessons of the past. A bill is in the National Assembly that should have been crafted by all of us, but it was not. But it is still a bill.
This is the Constitution Bill.
The Constitution Bill is still a bill. But if there was no consultation, now the Constitution empowers the National Assembly members to do the consultation. But to do the consultation, it says that you must allow it to move from the second reading beyond 2020 scenario into the committee stage. The committee is duty bound to consult every Gambian and give a report to Parliament on the Constitution. But it seems that that message is not clear to even those who should guide the destiny of this land. I don't mind, you call me here any day and I make this statement and let every Gambian call and try to challenge this statement. I am saying that we have the best opportunity that we ever had in constitution making building. Because 1970, that opportunity did not exist of consultation with the people. 1996, political parties did not exist. National assemblies did not exist. It was executive driven, and they manipulated it the way they wish. We just compromised because otherwise decrees would have continued to be the supreme law of the land, which would have been senseless, even though some people also supported that. They would have preferred that. So we are saying now, even though the executive has done its bidding, it is now in the National Assembly, which is not controlled by the executive. Because you need 3/4 majority for the bill to pass the second reading and the third reading before it can go for referendum. So there are controls. The controls are there. What we need now is a discussion on the clauses. And the Constitution and the standing orders say that your members can get the population involved so that we discuss every clause. Then DOI will say clause 1, what it stands for, UDP will say so, GDC will say so, NPP say, all the parties, what they stand for, clause 1, 2, so that we know what you stand for. Even if the National Assembly do not agree, some are progressive, some prefer to be retrogressive, and it fails. At the end, everybody will know what everybody stands for in this country. So those who will come tomorrow will not waste time, because you know that what you stand for is what the majority stand for. Therefore, to come up with a constitution will be very easy. But if we don't engage in that exercise, then you don't know what anybody stands for. Whether the current leader or any leader who comes again is starting from scratch. So it is important that we bear that in mind, that the stage we are in now is the most critical stage of our history in nation building. If we miss it, then unless we select another government with very sincere people who are determined to serve country and people with self-abnegation, then we'll lost it for decades and probably a century. Thank you very much.
Mr. Halifa Sallah of the People's Democratic Organization for Independence and Socialism, thank you so very much for taking time out on a public holiday to come and join us here on Coffee Time with Peter Gomez.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jams, Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mënuloo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh. Yes!
Wave Acts Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave, Bisul mu fine. Wave, your money is yours.